It's widely understood that organisations such as charities and social enterprises contribute enormously to the health and well-being of our communities. These organisations often function on limited funds, and the recruitment of volunteers to take on specific roles is vital to the sustained delivery of services. We also know that as well as being beneficial to organisations, volunteering is beneficial to the individual volunteers themselves and the communities they live in. Recognising the value of volunteering, our neighbourhood partners established a pilot programme to develop and strengthen volunteering opportunities with the aim of enhancing good practice. Our aims were to develop criteria for a successful volunteer programme, to celebrate and promote neighbourhood volunteering, to produce a movement to encourage and recognise volunteering, to improve connections between neighbourhood volunteer organisations, and to share the findings of this pilot.
I trust the coordinator and be flexible towards the volunteering.
Yeah, you like that flexibility, don't you? Because you can come in and do your role.
That's
but
right,
obviously when you've got pressures on outside, that you have that flexibility to opt out of volunteering role.
Yeah.
And that trust is so important, isn't it?
It is very important. I love volunteering. I love being in this building. It's so friendly and lovely. And I love the people I meet, learn new things, different cultures. It's lovely. I enjoy it very much.
Well, you know, it's really lovely to hear, Janice, because you're quite active here, and it's really lovely to hear you say that, because you make a big difference to the settlement, and you know, you actually do give a lot to us. So we just want to thank you for that as well, for being an amazing volunteer. So, and I'm so glad that you get a lot from it as well.
I do indeed.
You value your volunteer
I'm really
role.
glad I found this place. Well, my daughter found it for me. She recommended that come in and see how I could help in any way, and I've really enjoyed it. Really good.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you're with us, and hopefully we'll see you next week when we start up our clubs again.
Yeah.
So thank you for your time, Janice.
Thank you.
What are the other benefits, do you think, in terms of volunteering that you're finding at Fairshare?
Well, working in a school, you're part of a team, and that's really important. That sort of that whole team drive and improving lives. That's what you're about. So how did I fill that sort of gap? And that's why volunteering at something like that, you're working with people who are all from all different backgrounds. We don't know anything about each other apart from one thing, and we're there because we're passionate about food insecurity and food poverty and, you know, sustainability. So you know you're working with people that have got the same sort of drive. So for me, it's a great way to be part of that team again. The socialising. I'm a lot fitter since I've been here with all the lifting. So for my own benefit. So I do feel, yes, I'm doing something really useful, but I've got to say it's for me as well. It's a routine, it's structure, and I feel like I can give something back.
Yeah. So hello, Matt. And then you work for the youth team at Manchester Settlement. Yep. Can you just tell me a bit about why you volunteer here at the settlement?
So I started volunteering at somewhere else beforehand, working at school, and then term ended, and I wanted to carry on working with young people. I thought it was an invaluable experience. Learned loads of new skills. Working with people, like leading groups, and being able to just learn new things. So I just thought I'd.
And is it something that looks good on your CV as well?
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good on your CV as well, because it shows that you're. Looking to fill your time with new experiences, new challenges and stuff.
Yeah. And some of the young people actually mentioned having a student exchange programme, so they can actually get different skills by working on different organisations and getting different placements. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Yeah, I feel that'd be great, because you'd be able to meet new people, get a different perspective on things, see how different organisations do it, and
Yeah.
it'll be great.
Well, I'm so pleased that you're getting quite a lot of benefit from being a volunteer here. So I just want to say thank you from us. Thank you for your time.
Oh, no, thank
And
you.
being a volunteer at the settlement is brilliant. Thank you.
Cheers, thank you.
Do you want to tell me about which organisation you're from, where you volunteer?
Yeah, I'm working for the charity organisation, the River Manchester.
And can you just tell me a bit about how you were recruited there?
Actually, I was referred from a friend to this charity, and after I came to had an interview with Donna, and Donna explained, the manager there, she explained to me what this charity is doing, and so I understood that this charity actually is supporting the domestic abuse survivors, and I experienced domestic abuse in my life as well, so I decided to become the volunteer there. That's how I recruited.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that recruitment is quite special to the River in
Yeah.
terms of you're a volunteer that's been recruited through a referral process, and that's quite special to the River in this Oaklandshire area.
Yes.
So that is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah,
And I'm assuming, because you're still a volunteer there, aren't you?
yeah,
That you're really enjoying it and getting lots of benefit from
I
it.
do, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell me? Tell me quickly a little bit about your role there.
Yes, so I'm the project coordinator at the River, so I look after and manage all the volunteers. I look after the events we do, and I support anybody who's fleeing domestic violence. And sometimes we've got volunteers who are with us, and we bring them in and we train them, but then they get a job if they're good. So sometimes we're constantly recruiting and we're losing volunteers, and that's really difficult because we've got to keep recruiting and keep training. It's time consuming. So
Yeah.
depending on what staff we've got and what volunteers we've got, depends on how we can do that.
And in terms of the cost of living crisis, how is that affecting your volunteers?
I think it's affecting everyone, but our volunteers more so, because a lot of our volunteers are on benefits due to they're not able to work.
Yeah.
So we're supporting people with food. A little bit of a perk of the charity, they can buy food a bit cheaper, and supporting with whatever we can, really.
Yeah. How is it in terms of paying for their own transport to get to the River? Is that
So
an issue?
we pay for the transport if they've got a cost and they're struggling, or it's identified they've got a financial need, we will pay the travel expenses.
So that comes out of your own budget as well,
Yeah,
then?
and that all, again, is on funding, if we've got the funding or not.
Right, okay. And do you find some of your volunteers sometimes getting moved to other areas of the country because of their circumstances as well, so you're losing volunteers as well?
Yeah, so recently we've had a lady who's been moved from Manchester to Newcastle with her 6 children, due to the fact that she was in temporary accommodation and then she was given a house. So she's just been completely picked up and moved out of an area she's just got settled in and moved to Newcastle.
Yeah.
So we are still supporting her on the phone
Yeah.
at the minute because
Fantastic.
she's got no one.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So these are some of the threats that you face as a volunteer coordinator.
yeah.
And time is also a big issue, isn't it, in terms, like you said?
Yeah, we could do with another 5 volunteer coordinators.
Yeah, because you're trying to do a bit of that
Yeah.
and juggling lots of different plates.
Yeah.
Right, lovely. All right, thanks for your feedback, Donna. Tell me about your role, Kerry. Where do you work?
So I work at Manchester Settlement in Oaklandshire. I run a food pantry to help working families, struggling families and retired community members.
Yeah. So as a volunteer coordinator, what are your hopes?
The hopes are to encourage more people to volunteer, empower them in their roles, also introduce them to new qualifications as in food hygiene. Yeah.
That's absolutely fantastic. And I think when we did our sessions, you talked about maybe producing a newsletter. Why was that quite important to you?
Because I think that people need updating, and when you're working with volunteers, they're not all in on a regular basis. Therefore, a newsletter with updates and courses and what have you would be ideal to share.
Yeah. And I understand that when we discussed that, it was about, a lot of volunteer coordinators don't have extra time to do things like that. So if somebody took the lead on that, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
You know.
absolutely. Yeah. I think it's a vital piece.
Yeah, to share that good practice. and somewhere for volunteers and coordinators to put their little projects and ideas in as well.
Yeah, and share the information. Not everyone has access to internet and things like that.
So from all the sessions that we did with the volunteer coordinators and then also with the volunteers themselves, we highlighted some good practice that we'd really like the primary care network to take forward. And some of these things are things like having a resource pack. So a lot of volunteer coordinators said they had to go out and find resources, and that was very time consuming. So if we had a resource pack which had forms in it, which had some kind of training manual in it so they wouldn't have to find the right training, some example policies, etc. A pack that we could just produce quite easily and give out to volunteer coordinators, especially for those new organisations that are developing a new volunteer programme. That would be so useful. And then besides that, the volunteers actually asked for a volunteer coordinator forum, but alongside this they've asked that it actually be well led, because they won't have the time to lead it themselves, so they need somebody there in place to coordinate this forum. And the idea of the forum was really very much about saving time again and sharing resources and learning. So looking at shared training, because we found out that when organisations do want to put a training for volunteers, sometimes just 1 or 2 volunteers would show up and that wouldn't make it viable in terms of cost. So doing shared training in terms of managed training, that would be very useful, but also share good practice, and also to come together and celebrate our volunteers during Volunteer Week and produce newsletters. So all these ideas can come out from the coordinator forum, which they would actually lead themselves with a coordinator. Another thing that we've asked for is funds, because we know that when it comes to training, we need some funding to provide that training, whether it's online or in person. And then besides that, young adult volunteers have said that they particularly want to volunteer because it looks good on the CV, etc. So if they could have some kind of student exchange programme, that would be fantastic, because they would gain skills and knowledge and values from other organisations that they're placed with. So we actually share our volunteers to make them better people and to actually empower them also. So student places are quite important as well to this community in Openshaw. Another thing that coordinators highlighted was recruitment issues. Some coordinators aren't sure of where to look. They don't know what support is out there for them. And platforms like Yes Manchester and Volunteer Affairs are 2 examples of how we can support coordinators to help them recruit the right people. Another example of supporting volunteers is very much about creating buddying schemes, so that volunteers feel comfortable, know that they're working with somebody that is also doing the role, and it makes them feel better in terms of gaining their confidence, raising self-esteem as well. And then lastly, I just want to talk about awarding, because a lot of the volunteers have actually said that really getting awards isn't important to them, a thank you is enough. But if they were awarded, and some do like this, they would like a certificate, they really enjoy the social gatherings, thank you letters are wonderful as well, and to do things like that during Volunteer Week would be fantastic. So these are some of the things that I've highlighted in terms of supporting our volunteers and coordinators in our Openshaw community. So this project really has been about sharing good practice in terms of volunteer programmes within the Openshaw area, within the primary care network area, and through doing the consultations with the coordinators and the volunteers themselves, we've actually managed to find so many areas that we can strengthen, but also good practice.
Hello, my name is Adrian Ball, the Chief Executive of Manchester Settlement, and I'd just like to thank everybody that's been involved in making this project such a great success. Angela Beacon from Manchester Local Care Organisation, who's given us the funding to deliver this project. Matt Rose, who has worked so hard to work with each of the groups, but most importantly, is the organisations and the volunteers from Emerge, Salvation Army, Rainbow Haven, the River and the Malawi Heritage Organisation, plus volunteers from Manchester Settlement that have given up their time to share their experiences around volunteering. We really hope that this is going to be a useful resource, some useful learning for organisations to develop how they can work with volunteers in the future. Thank you very much.